Recently, I decided that I was going to pick up another 6 issues of the Hellraiser comic book series, something that I absolutely adore, and something that I know that everybody on this channel absolutely loves. And as I get farther and farther into these mystical and hellish-like books, I do gotta say, there is one thing that I am beginning to notice, that there is definitely absolutely no shortage of just where these things can go, whether this is another story about the Lamarckian Cube, or if it's just another story about another Cenobite, or anything in between. We've seen puzzle boxes, diaries, nursery rhyme books. We've seen people take the correct amount of right and left turns inside of a tunnel. We've seen computer simulations. We have seen just about everything. But as I got farther and farther into these new issues that I happened to pick up, I did find a story that managed to kind of take the Lamarckian puzzle cube and actually do something a little bit different. And while it isn't the most in-depth story, and something that is going to bring completely fresh lore to the series that we've never seen before, I did find it very interesting to see what it would do, where you would actually see a set of film creators, or at least one, that would constantly be signing these young actresses and kind of giving them the Lamarckian box to turn into a different shape, a shape for every different kind of emotion, and a shape that would fit the film that he would begin to make over and over again, or at least it would seem, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But with this story, it would show the Lamarckian puzzle being used in kind of a different way, not actually being used to suck somebody down to hell or to bring forth the Cenobites to wreak their havocs on somebody's soul, and well, actually they do that, but in a completely different way, where they don't end up becoming a Cenobite or just becoming a slave to the Cenobites. No, to actually perfect their acting, to bring them the pain that they would need for some of the biggest roles in their life. And I just really happened to enjoy this story. And on top of all this, I really thought the artwork used here was also something very special. So without a doubt, everybody, while I'm sitting in this hellish-like room reading you this hellish-like book in this 80 to 90 degree weather, and I do have no AC, the room is completely surrounded in curtains, and there is a light in front of me and a light behind me. I don't know where I'm going with this. I guess I'm just trying to say that I'm going to be getting very sweaty as we dig our claws deep into the meat of this story. But nonetheless, everybody, I'm going to do my best to kind of endure this room, because it's been a little while since we touched down in the Hellraiser franchise, and it is just about that time. And where our story will begin is with a young starlet actress, accompanied by a famous director debuting his newest movie and the story of losing herself in the part. She'll just be damned. She laughed when the film's director, Steven Sigourney, invited her to this press screening. A horror film, she thought. Genre crap, beneath the dignity of any serious actor, and certainly beneath the attention of Janice Bauer, the greatest film actress of our day. And yet, she's read the glowing reviews of Sigourney's last few films. People are saying that Sigourney's work has transcended its genre trappings, that he is poised on the brink of a new kind of film artistry. Sigourney says that he needs her for his next film. He says that no other actress can play the role, and she finds Sigourney's film and the prospects of working on his next one intriguing. She doesn't mind admitting it. She's attracted to Sigourney, and she has to admit it. She's attracted to the project. She'll just be damned. There's that box again, the central image of all Sigourney's films, the physical manifestation of desire, obsession, confusion, pain. And there are as many interpretations of its meaning as there are viewers of the film, and all interpretations are valid. All are powerfully felt, and the audience feels the character's torment as if it were their own. And when the young actress dies at the end of the movie's conclusion, something dies inside of all of them. Janice is odd, and the performance that Sigourney got out of his lead, Amy Dade of all people, she's not much more than a model. What could Steven do with Janice? And with the introduction of the story, I would have to wonder just how many films could actually be made with the Lamarckian Cube. And this will kind of be a focal point in the story, and one of the only things that really ended up, kind of confusing me. Because it would almost seem that every single film by this young Sigourney director would have to involve the Lamarckian Cube. And while we have seen classics like Jason, or even Nightmare on Elm Street, we all know that by the end of it, they're really nothing special. And I would have to say that the same thing could even sadly be said about the Hellraiser franchise. Up until about 2 years ago with Hulu's new version of the Hellraiser story, I would have to say that a lot of these movies just kind of turn into, very crap. Very fun, yet crap. But with this young actress looking at all at the screen, absorbing all the energy of the room of everybody just kind of recoiling back at these disturbing last scenes of Sigourney's movie, she began to think to herself that maybe she could take on this role. And with the next few panels, we would essentially see Janice being persuaded into this new role, as Sigourney would lead her through all the starlit people, trying to bolster her confidence and to just get her to say yes. Stephen Sigourney shudders briefly at the pleasure he receives from his audience's applause. A room full of jaded film reviewers, and they're cheering like the home team that just won the pennant. He hooked them, reeled them in, and won them over. He accepts the applause as due, but the rush is already gone. He's ready for his next conquest. Tell me you loved it, Janice. I didn't hate it. There's definitely something there. Damned if I know what though. Be in my new film, Janice. With you starring, it would be my masterpiece. I don't know. Yes, you do. You're the only woman for the role. Your entire career has been a triumph of revelation. But when I look at you, I see depths unplumbed. There's still something inside of you that you've yet to reveal. Steven! And Janice Bauer? You signing up for the new film? I'm trying. Amy, looks like we've got a hit. Are you ready for the publicity tour? Yes, I am. The shoot was just so rough. I almost consider the tour time off for good behavior. Isn't she just witty? She'll be great on Carson. I'll catch up with you guys later. I've got an actress to entice. And with her next few panels, Sigourney would try to entice Janice into this new role, and telling her that she seriously needs to consider this, that this could be the next big landmark in her career. And at the end of the night, Sigourney would end up giving her the script, telling her to read it over, and to talk to him immediately in the morning. And while she would go on to do this, and while Janice would be extremely excited to actually look over the script, come morning time, she would realize that such heinous things that would happen in a movie maybe just aren't something that she could depict. That maybe these just are not things that are really in her acting prowess. But as we'll see in the next coming pages, we would see this man actually pass her one of the Lamarckian cubes, telling her that this is some sort of acting tool. And while this does seem to be an interesting way to actually bring somebody down to the bottom of their feet to play, you know, maybe one of the most depraved movies that they possibly could, at the end of the day, I just don't really understand how this could possibly relate to Leviathan's plan, or to the leaderships of the Cenobites. But we shall continue. I read the script, Steven, and I was up all night thinking about it, and I'm sorry, it's brilliant, but I don't think I can play it. Can't or won't? Can't. The main character is fascinating, but I don't have the slightest handle on her character. There's nothing in my experience that even begins to parallel her obsessions, and I've never felt a fraction of her pain either. Yes, you have. That's exactly what my films are all about. That's exactly what the audiences are responding to, Janice. What you're responding to. We suppress sensation. We only let ourselves feel a fraction of our capacity. The obsession, the pain, it's all inside of you. You just have to get in touch with it. And how do I do that? You want to tie me up and slap me around? Maybe later. Business before pleasure. There's something I've been doing with all my actors lately, and I'd like to try it with you. Maybe later. Business before pleasure, right? I'll keep my calendar open. But what I want you to do for me is to try a little acting exercise. This Lamarckian puzzle box, you've seen them in all my films. It can be manipulated in all sorts of different shapes, and each one of them has a different name. And in your films, each shape represents some emotional state. Right, and I want you to solve the puzzle. Get it to match the shape that it was in the end of the film. That's called the shape of pain. But what's the point? The point is that you'll have to concentrate deeply, both on the puzzle and on the emotional state it represents. By the time you've solved it, you'll emphasize fully with your character, I promise you. But I warn you, Janice, though this isn't a game, it's a powerful and effective acting tool, and it will alter your perceptions radically. I don't want you to turn down the part until you try this, but if it becomes too intense, promise me, you'll stop. Oh, save the pitch, Steven. You've hooked me. I'm gonna give it a try, and I'll call you soon. The shape of pain, Janice. Yeah, I got it. And with the next panel, we would see Sigourney making a phone call to a strange person he would be apparently making a deal with, telling whoever's on the other end of the line that he'd have another one for them very shortly. And while I don't really understand whether, he's actually calling a Cenobite or somebody who was actually able to somehow make contact with these people, how this man even managed to come across this thing, and how he actually managed to give this to a bunch of different actors without them being taken down to hell, to have their souls torn asunder. Because it would seem that every single Hellraiser story that we've ever really come across. These things never really lend themselves well to anybody who comes across them, whether they open them or not. But with this man, and as we've already seen in the story, and as we'll see at the end, would only, eventually come to benefit these people, although without a cost. And with the next few panels, we would see Janice running back to her apartment and essentially forming her obsession with this thing, trying to open it, or at least bring it to a certain shape that she would need to experience the pain she would need for her next role. And it's this interaction where I found this to be, very fascinating. Like I said in the beginning of the video, not quite opening this, but opening it to a certain state where she could actually benefit from it, to actually gain some form of emotion, and to kind of gain some kind of connection with not only Pinhead, but the whole cast of the original Cenobites, as well as the Black Diamond ever-spiraling god Leviathan. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. This part obviously slides under here. Ow! Edges like a razor. Is that deep enough to need stitches? Guess not, but I better wash it though. Guess Stephen was right about one thing. I'm learning about pain. Although I really don't think the key to this character is understanding how she would react to an owie, unless it's supposed to be some kind of lame sense of memory. And as Janice would run off to wash this wound, we would see the Lamarckian cube doing what it does best, being extremely creepy and bringing a sense of ambiance that I've really never quite seen, with it starting to kind of shatter out lightning, spitting it everywhere across the floor. And with the next couple of panels, we would see something truly unique in the Hellraiser franchise, where it would almost seem like Janice would kind of just fall asleep and actually enter the land of the gash without any kind of repercussions whatsoever, besides meeting a few Cenobites and having herself completely scared silly. But even as this would continue, she would never really sway away from trying to put the Lamarckian box into its correct position. What? I don't understand how I got here. Maybe I just dozed off. This must be some kind of lucid dream. Miss Bauer, I'm a big fan of yours. Might I trouble you for an autograph? No! Stay away from me! Wake up, Janice! Wake yourself up! Hey, in there! Did you oversleep? Jan, it's me! Peter, it can't be Thursday already. Jan, what's happened to you? What's wrong with your hands? Nothing, I'm just preparing for a role. And I can't stop now, Peter. I'm so close. I'm so very, very close. Gotta take a brain check, okay, Peter? Bless you, you're a doll. And as Janice would go on to slam the door in Peter's face, we would see her continuing back to the puzzle. Only this time, she would finally put it in the shape that would always need to be. And with this, would finally transcend her down into the world of the gash, and to an experience that she would need to land this role that Sigourney wants for her. Only this time when we meet the Cenobites, we would actually see the original cast of characters from the original Hellraiser movie. And while I found this to be something very cool, it would always seem to be that in a lot of these stories that aren't super in depth, things that aren't the origin stories of different kind of Cenobites, or some of the bigger stories that would actually be more kind of landmark hits for this channel, being like the origins of Face, it would always seem that the Cenobites wouldn't really stay for too much longer. And while this is kind of disappointing, it is nonetheless very cool to actually see all the original creatures from the first movie sitting here with Janice, teaching her her next biggest role. So close. If I could rest for a moment, sleep for a while, then start again fresh. But I can't put the box down. Why can't I put the box down? Perhaps because you're obsessed. What else were you trying to prepare for? I've forgotten. And suddenly as Janice is all strapped up against his table, and as the meat hooks would fly and entangle themselves in her body, we would see a familiar presence, and a man who, once again, I have absolutely no idea how he managed to get down here. You're drifting, Janice. Try and concentrate. Stephen! The exercise, Janice. Remember, you said the character is driven by obsession and pain. You've got a good feel for the obsession, but let's see if I can teach you a little something about pain. No! It was just another dream. I'm unraveling. This has got to stop. And the box, it's in the shape of pain. I've done it. I've actually done it. And as Janice would wake up from the stream and realize just exactly what she has done, we would cut to the next day of her rushing into Stephen Sigourney's office, absolutely perplexed for this next role and everything that it could actually bring to her. And while a lot of people might think that, when somebody would hand you some kind of box and it would literally force these weird hallucinations on you, these weird lucid dreams where you could literally feel one of your coworkers piercing a knife into over and over again, trying to teach you lessons of pain, of obsession. You might think, know that you might be dealing with something a little darker, something more real than just some kind of simple acting tool. And while this isn't something that I was, easily able to just kind of get over, at the end of the story, I just kind of wrote this all off as kind of a bad B movie that would involve the Hellraiser franchise, and nonetheless, just being a fun story. He's expecting you, Miss Bauer. Go right in. I've solved it, Steven. I understand how to do it, and you'll play the part. I have to. I need to, Steven. Excellent. Now solve the puzzle for me. It's simple. A twist here, and a turn there, and once again, and fully, the puzzle box would begin to move on its own, spitting out lightning from every which direction, and transporting Janice into the world of the gash. Only this time, things would seem to be just a little more real. And this only makes me beg the question of, is this something that the puzzle box is actually capable of? Of instead of bringing your soul to the black lands of Leviathan, if instead turning it to all these different shapes could actually just bring you to different shades of hell, to different sections where you could experience kind of different torments and emotions. And this is something that I would like to see a little more fleshed out in the rest of the Hellraiser comic franchise, and something that I do believe that the Hulu movie actually did touch on, but something that I have not watched in since it first came out, and something that I'm going to have to brush back up on. But with the next couple of panels, we would see Janice standing front and center in front of the whole cast of filmmakers as well as all the Cenobites together. And once again, leading me to the question of just what exactly is the plan for all this? What does all this have to do with the Black Diamond God Leviathan as well as his leaders of the Cenobites? And just how Steven was able to make this deal of whatever he's got going on with them. Whether they're actually trying to make films in the land of the gash to kind of push out into the real world to maybe cause more order or more chaos, or maybe to get people to kind of seek out all these different puzzle configurations. But at this point, we don't even know if these movies that Sigourney is making would actually run and coincide with Clive Barker's Hellraiser, or if they're just something totally and completely different. But as Janice would stand in front of Pinhead himself, the fun would really begin. Oh God, no! This can't be real! It depends on your definition. We're making movie magic, Janice. Of course it's real. A moat woman, you're wasting film. Steven, please help me. What more can I do, Janice? Everything's in place. Now why don't you just pretend that you're in pain? No, this can't be real. It's just a dream. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Come on, Janice. Dig deep. Give me more terror. And as Janice would continue to scream and scream and to tell herself to wake up, Sigourney would only tell her that this just isn't doing it for him, and actually asking for the help of the Cenobites themselves. And of course they would have absolutely no problem with this, as we would watch them grab all their weapons, all their knives and all their machetes and everything in between, and begin to make waste of Janice herself. And with the next panel essentially seeing Janice completely enclosed in the fires of hell, she would finally lend herself to the role and begin to scream. A scream that echoes months later at the world premiere of Steven Sigourney's newest film, The Shape of Pain. He's outdone himself this time, and the audience is stunned, and so is the starlet who sits beside him. Tell me you loved it, Marie. I did. You're a genius, Steven. They're already talking about another Oscar for Janice. I'd do anything for a role like that. How very interesting. Hold that thought, would you? There's Janice and George. Janice, George, are you ready for the publicity tour, Janice? Are you kidding? She's chomping at the bit. That's terrific. I'll catch up to you guys later, okay? I've got an actress to sign up. And unlike the actress that we've seen at the beginning of the story, Janice would show a different kind of emotion, actually seeming a little dead in the eyes. And while she would be standing there, and as we look even closer, we would see a new kind of necklace around her neck, something that would show the exact same symbol that can be found in the Marcan puzzle box. And while the previous actress didn't quite have this, it only makes me wonder if she's under maybe more control from the Cenobites themselves, or Leviathan, or Sigourney, and whether by the end of this film, if unlike the previous actress once again, if Janice is even happy of what has happened, if there's anything even left inside. After all, the test that she would complete would be the test of pain. And while the previous panels wouldn't really seem to be very different, and something that I'm going to talk about in just a little bit, as Janice would stand there looking completely dazed and out of it, this would be the end of our story. And while it is one that I did really enjoy, and one that I really enjoyed the artwork out of it as well, there is one question to be begged, of what exactly is the connection between Stephen Sigourney and the Cenobites? And I'm not really sure if maybe this is a character that has come across anywhere in the Hellraiser franchise, being the movies or any of the different comic books. It's something that really just kind of bothered me. And probably something that I'm thinking about a little too much is just how many movies could this man possibly make out of this same plotline of this little Marcan box actually, torturing these women. Because you can't really just make a movie out of, somebody being tortured down in hell. This one little moment of Janice being sucked down by the puzzle box in front of him and being tortured by all the different Cenobites couldn't possibly land themselves an Oscar, let alone a film that everybody's going to be cheering about. And while it doesn't really ever say, if they did more filming around this later on after this torment, if there's actually an hour worth of story wrapped around this, maybe half-hour moment in this story. It only just makes me wonder what exactly is going on. I would absolutely love to see what Sigourney Weaver has actually made, and I don't know if this is something that I could actually do in real life. I've already said a lot of times I would love to see a Hellraiser show that would actually just be about many of these different short stories. Something very along the lines of Tales from the Crypt, only with a very Clive Barker spin to it. This is something that I think would absolutely be amazing, and I know that there's been talks of an HBO show, but something that I still, haven't really heard anything about. And while I do know that Clive Barker is still alive, I believe, I do know that he is very sick at the moment, that he actually had a very bad surgery at a dentist office that nearly actually killed this man. But nonetheless, everybody, try not to think about this story too much, and overall, I do hope it is something that you can enjoy for yourselves. After all, it's not every single one of these stories out of these books that is absolutely amazing, something along the origins of Face, or other very noteworthy stories like the very first story that I covered on this channel. Every once in a while, we're gonna receive, a B-tier story. Hell, sometimes even a C-tier story. But yes, everybody, thank you so much for watching my videos. It means so much. I'm sorry if I look like an absolute freak in this video. Like I said, it's nearly 90 degrees in this room. I'm sweating. I'm absolutely dying. I've already tried to escape once or twice, but ended up coming back because I realized that I wanted to get this video done so I have something to kind of edit throughout the week and the weekend and, not have to worry about it, to just, soldier on through. And I did, and I hope this turns out well. And I guess if it doesn't, you just probably won't even see it. But yes, everybody, thank you so much for watching this once again. I think the next thing that we're going to cover is possibly a very big Batman story that will kind of co-align with the Harvest Time season as well as Halloween, or maybe even some EC comic stuff. But as I'm kind of trying to weed myself through, the Vault of Horror or the Crypt Keeper and things like that, it's very hard to find stories that are worth covering, because a lot of them are very silly and are very goofy and just, I'll be honest, aren't very good. There's been a few that I found a little bit funny, but outside of that, just not my favorite thing in the world. But anyways, have you all an absolutely fantastic night. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button. It would help us an absolute ton. But other than that, everybody, I will see you on the next episode of From the Heart. Goodbye.